The 1-6 committee now prepping for a highly anticipated and perhaps final hearing. Committee Chairman Benny Thompson revealing today the postponed hearing, will be held before the November elections, although not next week, and will most likely not rely on witness testimony.
Well, the next hearing we have will be before the November 8th election. It won't be next week, but you can for all intents and purposes, expect at least one more hearing. We're not really looking at bringing witnesses before the committee in the next hearing. We still have significant information that we've not shown to the public that's available to us.
That quote's pretty intriguing, right? Significant information that we've not shown to the public. This announcement coming on the heels of a brand new interview with Ginny Thomas, the right-wing activist and the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. She supported Trump's coup and repeatedly pushed to overturn the election, even personally pressing lawmakers in Arizona and Wisconsin to overturn Biden's victory in those states. The committee saying she told them she still believes the 2020 election was stolen. Yet Clarence Thomas has refused to recuse himself from Supreme Court cases related to Trump and the election. NBC News has obtained her opening statement to the committee, which read, quote, "Regarding the 2020 election, I did not speak with Justice Clarence Thomas at all about the details of my volunteer campaign activities. I am certain I never spoke with him about any of the legal challenges to the 2020 election, as I was not involved with those challenges in any way. And I know he was completely unaware of my texts with Mark Meadows until this committee leaked them to the press." Those multiple texts to then Chief of Staff Mark Meadows were conspiracy theories, folks, including one drawn directly from QAnon. These texts demanding that Meadows help overturn the results of the 2020 election. Congressman Adam Schiff, also a member of the 1-6 committee, giving insight into Ginny Thomas's interview.
She didn't assert privilege, so at least not while I was present. So she did answer the questions that we had. She says, for example, I generally don't talk about my day-to-day activities. Well, that leaves a lot of wiggle room. Generally means there may be exceptions, and day-to-day means, well, maybe not day-to-day, but maybe in other terms, these issues may have been discussed.
You gotta love former prosecutors like Adam Schiff picking up on the nuances. Joining me now is Joyce Vance, former federal prosecutor as well, and Dave Ehrenberg, state attorney for Palm Beach County, also honoring me by joining me on set tonight. Joyce, let's start with you. Your thoughts on Ginny Thomas's appearance before the 1-6 committee, with the caveat, of course, Joyce, we don't have a transcript of her testimony at this time.
So it's interesting to see what people are beginning to make of Ginny Thomas's testimony. But Katie, as you know, and I think as you hint here, there's a lot of difference between the sort of testimony that someone gives in front of Congress where they're being treated deferentially and the sort of testimony that's obtained in front of a grand jury. And the difference is that in the latter, more pointed questions are asked and there's less wiggle room. And so I think at best this testimony, or what we've heard reported from it, is equivocal. And we don't know precisely what Thomas might have said had she been under more scrutiny. But here's the reality. Whether she ever had a conversation with her husband about her activities or not, that shouldn't be the standard for when a judge makes a decision that he should recuse. And if ultimately this is in part at least about the crisis of confidence at the Supreme Court, Justice Thomas, like every other member of the federal judiciary, has an obligation to recuse if sitting on a case could give the appearance of impropriety. And after her testimony and her concession that she believes that there was fraud in the 2020 election, that Joe Biden didn't win, Clarence Thomas no longer should be able to sit on any case that has anything to do with elections, election fraud, election outcomes. He should simply, out of an abundance of caution, recuse himself. I don't think we'll see him do that, to be honest, and it'll cause more diminishment of public confidence in the judiciary.
Dave, take a listen to what Chairman Thompson said about potentially using Ginny Thomas's testimony in a future hearing. Let's take a quick listen to it.
Do you expect anything that Ginny Thomas said yesterday to be part of that hearing?
The potential?
Yeah.
For
including her in that hearing.
Some of the things she might have said, but it won't be primary for the hearing.
So, Dave, what's the possible downside to using Ginny Thomas's testimony? I mean, don't you think the American public should hear what the wife of a Supreme Court justice thinks about the 2020 election?
Sure, Katie, but Ginny Thomas lives in crazy town. She's a true believer, so I don't think she's going to give much information other than towing to the big lie. I think maybe the import of her testimony could be to give information on John Eastman, who she was in collaboration with apparently, and he was one of the architects of this coup. But as Joyce says, that this is not going to help the January 6th committee. I mean, I think in the long run, it's about change to the Supreme Court, because right now the Supreme Court doesn't follow any of the rules the other judges do. They don't have a code of conduct. And so you can have a justice like Clarence Thomas ruling on cases involving January 6th that his own wife was involved with. And so that can't stand. And that's why Chief Justice Roberts says, hey, people don't trust the Supreme Court. Well, you know why? Look in the mirror. They need to make real change in their own backyard.
You know, Joyce, Ginny told the committee she doesn't talk to her husband about politics, but take a look at what Ginny Thomas had to say in 2017.
I am happy to be here, but my husband told me that the president asked about me twice. So I'm wearing my Trump button. We need to... Hey, it is the time to be behind whoever is our president, because there's a war for our country and the things that we believe in going on.
Oh, Joyce. So I'm all for women standing independent of their spouses, but what Ginny Thomas wants us to believe really stretches the bounds of reality here. Right, Joyce?
It's easy to talk in generalities about what you do and what you don't talk about. You know, Katie, I've lived in this situation for a long time. My husband is a state court judge. I was a U.S. attorney in the federal system. We were very careful to not talk shop, mostly because Bob wasn't all that interested in my work. I hope he's not listening. But I mean, it became our practice to make sure we didn't talk about what we were both involved in. But every once in a while, there would be something that an average person looking at the situation might view as a conflict. Maybe Bob would get some sort of a case that would involve a federal seizure, or I would see something that had a state aspect to it. And we were both immediately careful to recuse from those situations, to not handle them, to have other people in our offices, or even on one occasion outside of our offices, involved, because it's so important that the public have confidence in the judiciary and the justice system. And anyone who works in this system needs to be aware of that. That, I think, is ultimately the failure here, the failure to protect the institutions and the system by these people who are so committed to their own personal beliefs and pushing them forward at any cost that they would damage the institutions themselves.
Sounds like an activist judiciary to me. And along that point, Dave Ehrenberg, I want to switch gears and talk about Mar-a-Lago and the case with Donald Trump. Judge Aileen Cannon, Trump-appointed judge, handing Trump what I think is a win yesterday by overruling a portion of Special Master Raymond Deary's amended case management plan, specifically creating a conflict between this special master that she appointed at Trump's request, of course, and what is, I think, are the extension of deadlines to be able to give more delay opportunities for Donald Trump, and more importantly, not putting his feet held to the fire to have to say under oath what was allegedly planted by the FBI at Mar-a-Lago. What's your take on this order from Judge Cannon?
Well, you would think that Judge Cannon would have been humbled by the fact she was repudiated by the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals last week. But no, she's back to ruling for Donald Trump, who appointed her to the bench. So I'm not that surprised that she did this. Remember, she started this by giving a preliminary order saying she was going to grant the special master even before DOJ had a chance to respond. But in this ruling, I don't think it matters that much because, remember, it doesn't apply to the 100-plus classified documents that the 11th Circuit said that DOJ can continue to review and use. Those are the documents that DOJ eventually are going to use to determine whether to charge the former president with a crime. All this other stuff about these other documents that the judge just referred to in this last ruling, I don't think makes a big difference in the long run. So, yes, it is a W for the former president, but a small one.
Dave Ehrenberg, Joyce Vance, thank you, my paralegal panel, for being here tonight. I appreciate both of you.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber. Thanks for watching The Beat. I wanted to let you know I'm writing a foreword to the January 6th committee's full report, which is coming out soon from HarperCollins. You can go pre-order the book right now, and it'll come to you first when the report comes out in the fall or whenever the government releases it. Just search Melber Jan 6 on Amazon or your favorite independent book site. and click pre-order. You'll be the first to get both the report and my new piece on the coup conspiracy. You can also go to melbourbook.com and order it there.